Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
So, that was a game. That was a bad game. And that was a game that I unfortunately have to talk about, and I really don't want to. Welcome in, everyone, to Game Over Toronto following a disastrous Game 4 by the Toronto Maple Leafs, losing 2-0 to the Florida Panthers, and thus evening up the Round 2 series at 2-2 apiece, with the series shifting back to Toronto. My name is Zach Payne. I am your host for this evening's program, and this is going to be something, man, because I have a feeling a lot of Leaf fans, including myself, are understandably upset at the results of the game, at the events that transpired in this game, and at pretty much everything to do with the 60 minutes of hockey that we just watched, because the Leafs didn't show up. Plain and simple. The Toronto Maple Leafs didn't show up. So what we're going to do tonight is, normally on these playoff broadcasts, we do a game recap, what the Leafs did well, what the Leafs didn't do well, and then we get to your questions. Tonight, we have to tweak that formula slightly because there really isn't much good that went the Leafs' way tonight. There was one thing, and I'll talk about that briefly. There was a lot of bad, and we also have to talk about what this means for the overall series, because I think if you had told people before the series that it would be 2-2 heading to Game 5, it'd be very believable. That being said, the way we got here is understandably frustrating. So we're gonna do a game recap first. Before we do that, we are gonna set some ground rules. All right, we're gonna set some ground rules. Every single skater on the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight is fair game for criticism. Every skater on the team deserves a healthy amount of criticism. The coach, you can criticize the coach if you so choose as well. The only rule I have: nobody better slander Joseph Woll after that game. If you have an ounce of criticism for Joseph Woll after that, I do not know what to tell you, because Joseph Woll was spectacular tonight. He was the only reason this game was not 7-0. Why? Because the Leafs were that bad in front of him. The two goals that went in, not his fault. I mean, he was completely hung out to dry by his team. The Panthers had 6 power plays in the game, 36, 37 shots, something. The Leafs had no juice offensively. Wool kept them in it the whole night, and they didn't score a single time. 2 goals against is totally manageable, not when your forwards and defense don't do anything offensively. So that's the only rule, is Joseph Woll is absolved of criticism tonight. Everyone else is fair game. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into a game recap. Before we do, though, just a reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. We're just about at 200 subs, so if we could push over that finish line tonight, it would be greatly appreciated. And as always, if you have your own comments and thoughts on this game, feel free to leave them in the chat. I will be reading it throughout. It's just me tonight, so it's a little bit easier for me to check in with the chat throughout the show. But of course, the overtime segment at the end, we will have questions as well. So first of all, a couple of you already commenting, David, no doubt an embarrassment of a game. Being shut out for the second time these playoffs should add embarrassing. Mark in the chat saying refs must get a huge Christmas bonus from Florida every year. That was pathetic. Yeah, we will touch on the refs. I do want to say that the refs weren't the reason the Leafs lost. The Leafs did that to themselves, but the first period penalties are certainly a talking point that we will get into. So, and honestly, it did start right away. Like the puck drops, and very quickly the Panthers go to their first power play. Now, I'm going to pull up the penalty log for this game. It's mainly just for the first period, because we have to go over everything that happened, right? So early on, first shift of the game, it's the first couple shifts of this game. First shift for this player, Max Domi, he stays out way too long, and he's dancing in the neutral zone. He's trying to make a dangle, and he does a lazy one-handed windmill and flicks, I think it was Kachuk, in the visor with his stick. High sticking, 2 minutes. Panthers go to the power play right away. Now, the Leafs do a pretty good job killing that off. Panthers had a couple chances, and there was one at the end where Rodriguez had one that was along the ice that Woll made a really nice stop on. But the Leafs kill it. Few minutes go by. nothing really happening for either side, honestly. And then we get another penalty. Bobby McMahon gets a boarding call against Carter Verhaeghe. Now, this one, I understand why they called it. At the same time, I need someone, like, there is no difference between that Bobby McMahon hit on Carter Verhaeghe and the Max Pacioretty hit on Sasha Barkov from game one that was not called. Those are the exact same hit. A player is roughly 3 or 4 feet from the boards, and he gets hit, like, in the side, like, mostly his back, but in the side, and he barely even reaches the boards when he, like, as a result of the collision, and they call it boarding. Okay, fair enough. They call it. They didn't call it in game one. They called it here. Fine, whatever. But the penalties are 2-0. Leafs, once again, do a great job killing that one off. A few minutes later, a third penalty. This one to Matthew Nyes for a hooking, getting in the hands of Matthew Tkachuk. And the Leafs go back to the penalty kill. This is where I said, okay, this is a little ridiculous. Because look, if you look at these objectively, if it was an isolated event in a vacuum, are these penalties? Yeah. Yeah, they're penalties. But it's the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you just called 2 straight penalties on the Leafs already, and you're going to call a third straight penalty against them and give the Panthers a third straight power play in a playoff game. That almost never happens. It almost never happens. It is incredibly rare to see 3 straight penalty calls by the refs against one team. And it was made so much worse. The Leafs kill that off mostly. There's 2 seconds left, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson sails it over the glass for a delay of game. So now, not only did the refs call 3 straight penalties against you, but you also just shot yourself in the foot and took a 4th straight penalty. Now the Panthers start. It's a 2-second 5-on-3, which they don't do anything on, obviously, but is as a result of the scramble, Matthew Nyes coming out of the box can't help out enough. Carter Verhaeghe's left back door wide open. Matthew Tkachuk makes a good pass. Panthers open the scoring. And that was the game-winning goal. So after the first period, it was very clearly a horrible period from the Leafs. But the cope was, look, that was a bad period. Very bad period. But at the same time, the Leafs were on the penalty kill for most of that period. The penalties were 4-0 in favor of Florida, and you're only down 1-0? All right. I think, considering the circumstances, I said I'd take that. Joseph Woll was fantastic in the first period, as he was all night, kept the game at 1-0. Then in the second period, the Leafs just didn't have much offensive juice. Now, granted, the power play opportunities started to swing back in the Leafs' favor. Matthews drew a couple of calls, Nylander drew a call, and the Leafs got away with 1 or 2 calls as well because the refs are now in game management mode, trying to even up the calls. And look, the first power play that the Leafs had was decent. It was actually pretty decent. They had the puck in the zone for probably a minute 45 of that 2 minutes. They were cycling around. They got to the net. They created a few chances, but no dice, obviously. And that was their best power play of the night. Next power play, Sam Reinhart nearly gives the Panthers a 2-goal lead. Just literally skates it out in the neutral zone. It looks like he's going to turn back. He decides, no, I'm going to go play offense. Give and go, and Mitch Marner just watches Sam Reinhart skate into the zone. Matthews is like trying to at least play the pass. Marner does nothing. Joseph Woll is forced to make an unbelievable glove stop to keep it 1-0. And then the Leafs power play does nothing. The second unit comes on. They at least get a chance. Morgan Riley to Max Domi, but that gets stopped. Another power play just doesn't work. So now all of a sudden, the penalties were 4-3, and nothing's going the Leafs' way, and they aren't generating offense. They also gave up another penalty of their own in there. Sorry, I got that wrong. So on one of the power plays, inexplicably, Mitch Marner watches the puck just get iced for some reason, doesn't skate to it. Then the Panthers get a chance because of it. Joseph Woll makes a stop, and then Mitch Marner, standing still, trips a Panthers player and takes a stupid penalty. So the Leafs have to kill off. It was 4-on-4 for a minute, then the Leafs had to kill off a minute of power play time, whatever. Lundell took another one on Matthews at the end of the period. Leafs, again, no dice. So you're down 1-0 going into the third. Again, not much is going on for the Leafs offensively in this game. You get to the third period, and A few minutes in, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I should say, the Leafs actually started the third pretty well. They had a little bit of juice going. And then Oliver Ekman-Larsson, an inexplicably stupid penalty on against Devin Rodriguez. It was originally called a 5-minute major. After review, they determined there was no head contact. Therefore, it was only a 2-minute penalty for interference. Now, there was a funny moment in which Sam Bennett was very clearly saying, like, you are such a loser for that. He said it with some profanity in there that I won't repeat, but it was very funny to see Sam Bennett criticizing a Leafs player for a borderline play. I will say that. On that ensuing penalty kill, Matthew Knies gets the best chance any Leaf had the rest of the game. He gets a clear-cut breakaway. Unfortunately, he tries to, we've seen a couple of his nice breakaway moves. He tries to just go quick and get a snapper off top shelf, similar to the last second goal in the second period against Pittsburgh a few months ago, if you guys recall, that buzzer beater, where he just gets to the ringette line and just snaps it. He tries to repeat that. Doesn't work, and that was the Leafs' best chance of the night. So they kill that penalty. A few more minutes go by, and at this point, Florida is defending extremely well. I'll talk about how good defensively they are, and I will give my flowers to the Panthers in a second, but Panthers are defending extremely well. William Nylander decides to huck a pass straight up the middle to no one. It goes back the other way, and this is the funniest 2-on-1 sequence in a while. So Sam Bennett, and I think it was Verhaeghe, come in on a 2-on-1. Chris Tanev is the defender. He takes the pass. He takes Carter Verhaeghe out of the equation. Jake McCabe is back checking on this play, and he opts to skate by Sam Bennett and also go to Carter Verhaeghe, which means Sam Bennett is left all alone. Joseph Woll is on an island by himself, and Sam Bennett is easily able to just make a move and score with zero pressure. Very bad back checking sequence from McCabe. I have no idea why he opted to chase Verhaeghe while Tanev already had that taken away. Alas, the Leafs are now down 2-0. And then in the final, 6-7 minutes, again, not much generated. There was one nice deflection chance John Tavares could almost bury, but not much going on there. So the Panthers kill off the rest of the game. They don't score an empty netter, and then the Panthers win 2-0. Second time the Leafs have been shut out these playoffs, which, I mean, not fun. It's obviously not fun to get shut out. It's also not fun to lose. It's also not fun to lose that convincingly. I know it was 2-0, but it was a convincing win by the Panthers. And then the rough stuff at the very end of the game. Max Domi, to his credit, pulls a Florida Panthers move, and with no time on the clock, he just charges Sasha Barkov, hits him from behind into the boards. He did get a 5-minute major on the play. I wonder if there'll be supplemental discipline. I will say it'll be very, very funny if Max Domi gets suspended now. Alas, Domi does that. He gets absolutely pummeled after the whistle. Bobby McMahon and Brad Marchand start going at it. Marchand tried to drop his gloves and fight around the official. Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, as OKO Digital points out, were very chatty after hits in this game, which is very ironic that those two think that they have the morality to criticize other people for being dirty. Kachuk is maybe a little bit more allowed to. Sam Bennett absolutely has no grounds to criticize people for that. But that's the Florida Panthers way, right? That's the muck that they're trying to draw you into. The Leafs, they got into it at the end of the game. And I will say, the game was over. You lost 2-0. So you might as well get your pound of flesh. That's what the Panthers would do. So might as well. We'll see what happens after that. Actually, I wonder. Now, this will be funny because in the past, we have criticized the reporters around the league for not touching on the fact that, if there's a potential suspendable hit, if it's a Leafs player, they will tag the Department of Player Safety, be like, I wonder if the Department of Player Safety will look at that. When it's not a Leaf, they don't say anything at all about the play. I haven't seen anything yet. But it'll be interesting to see if Domi gets anything after that. So that's the game. Very poor performance by the Leafs. They just didn't have any offensive juice in this one. And I think that's best exemplified by the top line. Matthew Knies, he was okay. I mean, he had the breakaway chance. He was okay, but it's hard for him to do his job when his line mates aren't doing theirs. Matthews and Marner, they were They were good defensively, sure. But they took a step backwards offensively, which is unacceptable. Mitch Marner was horrible with the puck on his stick. And Austin Matthews, we know his shot is just not what it was, whatever injury he has. Jack Hahn, who used to work for the Leafs, he tweeted this out yesterday, I believe, that on average, Matthews' shot velocity is down 10 miles an hour compared to last season. So whatever injury is going on there, it's impacting his velocity. He can't get as much on it, which honestly, I was talking about this last show, that Matthews is just putting way too much heat on his shots. And that's why. Now we have an explanation, right? He's overcompensating to get the power because he just doesn't have the same velocity on his normal shot. It's leading to him missing the net. He's more inaccurate because he's putting too much emphasis on power to try to make up the difference. So his shot is just not there. There was a play, it might have been the first period, where Jake McCabe hits Matthews down low, and Matthews has to take a second to corral it and tries to go upstairs, and it just wasn't Austin Matthews. Like, you guys know this. I don't even have to say this. You guys know that Matthews has not had the scoring touch. We've talked about it on this show, but just watching that play, McCabe sends that pass down, and last year, if this is the 2024 Matthews, he's one-timing that, or at least trying to one-time it, or it's a quick touch and then bang. And he had to corral it, and it took like a second for him to load up a shot, and it just wasn't good. Like, it was just right into the glove of Bobrovsky. Not a good play, and that's where I was like, yeah, no, he just doesn't have it. And so again, he's been positive, he's still been a positive contributor, but at some point, you got to score a freaking goal, man, especially when no one else on the team has any juice. You've got to find a way to contribute offensively because you're the captain, you're the leader of this team. You got to just drag the team with you at some point. So it is what it is. Nye's missing over the top of the net on that breakaway was brutal. Yep, got to hit the net there. Matthews needs to be third line center. Lawton could be the first line center. Well, you wouldn't fix the goal scoring problem, I'll tell you that. I know the criticism for Matthews is going to reach an all-time high. I would also encourage you to criticize Marner because he was brutal in this game. Like, did Marner have a single shot tonight that wasn't blocked? I don't think so. There was a number of times that he was... I complimented Marner last game, after last game, for his subtle wristers that get through from the point. I didn't see any wristers from him in this game. He kept trying this half slapper, and every single time it got blocked. It was so predictable. It was so frustrating every time. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. The saving grace is the Leafs have 2 days off now. They did look gassed tonight. That's another thing. The Leafs had no energy in this. Their legs weren't with them. They weren't skating well. The Panthers skated them to the ground. So having 2 days off, you've got to reset, refocus, but I guess rest. I don't even know if that's one of the things that went wrong tonight. We'll see what the post-game quotes are from the team, and especially Berube. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't have an excuse for this team. They just did not perform. Very reminiscent of Game 5 against Ottawa. Leafs had a chance to close that series out at home. They play their worst game of the series, and then they go on the road and get it done in Game 6. If you want an optimistic point of view, the Leafs played their worst game of the series tonight. Maybe it's a one-off, but I said last series that has to be an outlier, that stinker. So this has to be an outlier in this series. You're allowed one dud per series. And I never want to see an effort like that again, especially against a team as good as the Panthers, who will make you pay. Even if it's a 2-0 game, a 2-1 game, a 3-2 game, the Panthers don't blow you out. They win a close game convincingly, like they did tonight. Killing 4 penalties in the first period, I guess, tired them out. I guess. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't really have an explanation for why they look so gas. If Domi gets a game, would you put in Camp for Robertson? So your options. The problem is, if you go with Robertson, McMahon, Domi, Holmberg has been unusable, especially on the road. They've been unusable. If you take Domi out and put Robertson in, you still make the line worse. Like, I'm the biggest Domi hater. He's better than Robertson. He's more useful than Robertson because he at least sometimes shows up in big moments. And Robertson is just so one-dimensional. He's horrible defensively, and that line will get kicked in the teeth every single time they're on the ice. Kampf, meanwhile, would just make that line useless because he's a defensive center, and those are I guess Kampf would be the answer because maybe you can just make a worse version of the checking line and hope they just don't get scored on. I guess that's a way you can go. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you rather Kampf or Robertson if Domi were to get a game? If not, even if he doesn't, are there any lineup changes? We can talk about that throughout the show. So with that being said, I am going to turn us over to our second segment. As I do, just a reminder to hit like and subscribe. We are chasing down 200 subscribers, so if you can hit that subscribe button, it'll take 3 seconds, and it would mean a lot to the Game Over Toronto channel. It'd mean a lot to me. So please go ahead and do that. Thank you guys in advance. This segment, we are going to focus on what needs to improve, aside from everything, but more specifically in terms of schematic things that the Leafs can improve. Going into Game 5, you have 2 days off to prepare so that hopefully you can bounce back and get a win on home ice to take back control of this series. So, number 1. I talked about this in my series preview, which, by the way, if you have not seen that, you can still go back and watch. It's just a video on the Game Over Toronto channel. I talked about one aspect with the Panthers forecheck and how the Leafs would handle it. And I said that this would worry me and it'll be the Leafs' Achilles heel if they insist on doing this. And I saw it again tonight. In the first 3 games of this series, the Toronto Maple Leafs did a great job of countering the Panthers forecheck by having forwards remain in the defensive zone with the defenders for easy breakout passes. Tonight, that went away, and the Leafs once again, for some reason, were overemphasizing the stretch pass. There was a sequence that just drove me insane in the third period where the Leafs, no pressure on Morgan Rielly in the defensive zone. He's sitting behind the net, and Marner, Matthews, and Nyes are all past center ice waiting for a stretch pass. And instead, Morgan Rielly gets a little bit of pressure on him, and he's forced to sail it, and it's an icing. Now, I'm willing to believe or bet or whatever you want to call it that this is a direct result of laziness. Honestly, the Leafs didn't want to put in the effort to be back defensively and skate the puck out unless their name was William Nylander, which William Nylander always goes back to collect the puck because he wants to skate it up himself. No other Leaf did that. Every other Leaf tonight was just waiting for stretch passes, and far too many times, as you would expect, the Panthers jumped it. Whether it was forcing an icing outright, whether it was deflecting the pass that goes to the wingers and creating a turnover, whether it was letting that winger get it and forcing a bad dump in and just collecting it and bringing it back out, whatever it was, the Panthers were ready for the stretch pass all night because if you watch the Leafs in the regular season, they overemphasize the stretch pass. So the Panthers know if you put enough pressure on the Leafs, they're just going to huck the puck into the neutral zone in some shape or form. And they were sitting on it all night, and that allowed them to just reload, reset, and dump it back in and get back on the forecheck. It was super reminiscent of every other Panthers-Leafs game from the regular season, where the Leafs just didn't have an answer for the Panthers' forecheck. Now, again, we have seen collectively the Leafs be better against the forecheck this series. So I'm not that worried that this is going to become a trend. I am worried that if the Leafs ever get into situations where they're trailing in the third period or they just don't have their legs with them or whatever, that they're going to resort to the stretch pass to try to get out of the zone, and that's not an effective way to relieve pressure whatsoever. So, hopefully, we get back to having extra forwards in the defensive zone for easy short pass options in lieu of the stretch pass, because I said it before the playoffs, and I will say it again because I haven't had to mention this before. The Leafs' inability to convert defensive zone puck retrievals into breakouts with possession is their number one flaw, and it is the number one reason that they struggle to score in the playoffs, and the number one reason that they sometimes struggle to defend in the playoffs. It's entirely because when they get the puck in their own zone, they turn it over way too much. So again, I'm willing to give them one stinker, and I'm willing to accept this game and this result if it's an outlier. If it is a one game sample where you just didn't have it that night, you got run into the ground, fine. If this is how the rest of the series goes, everyone is going to lose their minds, and I'm telling you, focus on that. Focus on the fact that the forwards were too lazy to come help out their defensemen, and they were trying to cheat for offense, and they didn't want to work for it. That's what I want you to focus on. They weren't willing to work for it. That's the headliner. Number 2, the power play. Now, we've said that the power play is a little bit of a concern. We are now reaching DEFCON, at least DEFCON 3. We're at least DEFCON 3 with the power play here, because coming into this series, we said, okay, they lit up the Senators in the first round, in the first few games, and then the Sens started to figure it out. However, the biggest problem was the Panthers have a super aggressive penalty kill, and this power play unit and these players don't do well when they're under pressure and under duress. What have we seen in this series so far? The Leafs have 2 power play goals, one courtesy of the second unit where Riley just puts it on and Pacioretty deflects it, and it's a beautiful deflection, cool. But the second unit dumped it in, won a battle, and then went to the net. And the one goal that the top unit scored, they throw it to the net. Nyes gets positioning in front, and the Tavares tip goes off the defender that's trying to deal with Nyes, and it goes in. Every other time that the top unit's been out there this series, they haven't been that effective. Now, like I said, the first opportunity of the game was a bit more encouraging, right? They were moving the puck around. Matthews had a couple nice plays in and around the net. Nyes had some chances. Tavares had some chances. Whatever. But the rest of the time, it was a disaster. And this boils down to 2 players. It boils down, Matthews to a lesser extent, just because he can't score. So him not being a shooting threat obviously impacts these players. William Nylander had a horrible game in terms of just turnovers and whatnot. But Mitch Marner, this might have been Mitch Marner's worst playoff. Well, it's definitely his worst game of the playoffs. This is the worst Marner has looked with the puck on his stick that I can remember. I do not recall a time that Mitch Marner looked so turnover prone, so mistake prone, just so antsy with the puck. Genuinely looked like the Montreal series Marner, if you guys want to revisit that nightmare. He looked tentative. He looked like he was gripping his stick too hard. He wasn't moving his feet at all. He was sitting on the perimeter. He refused to go to the dangerous areas. And as a result, the Leafs generated nothing when he was on the ice. Nothing. Matthews just doesn't have it. He was at least throwing the body around a little bit more, winning a couple puck battles, but then same thing. He'd win the battle, give it to the point, or to Marner, or to Nyes, but then there would be no action in the middle of the ice. The top line had nothing in the middle of the ice the whole night. Nyes had the breakaway, but that came shorthanded without Matthews and Marner on the ice. It was bad. Matthews and Marner, they devolved into the perimeter players that we've seen in the playoffs before, and that is something that is unacceptable, not just for the money that they're paid, but unacceptable for the standards they set for themselves with their play. In the playoffs even, I will say, Matthews and Marner have generally been pretty good, even offensively. I know it's hard to believe because Matthews hasn't scored, but that line offensively has been pretty good. They've won their minutes. But tonight was a clear regression in terms of their ability to get to the dangerous areas, their ability to maintain possession in the offensive zone, and just their ability to make passes in general. Marner struggled so much with passing the puck tonight. Nylander struggled a bit with passing the puck as well. Matthews, just a wash. He doesn't have it. Nyes was trying his best, and John Tavares, bless him, but when Nylander doesn't have it, Tavares often doesn't have it either because Tavares is pretty reliant on Nylander. So that just didn't work. Pacioretty, whatever. It was brutal. So that's the other thing is the power play absolutely has to get going. Meanwhile, the penalty kill, they actually kind of did pretty good. I like the penalty kill was not bad in this game. It was not good, but it was not bad. I think the biggest thing for me with the penalty kill is if you've watched Carolina and Florida kill penalties for the last 3 years, I don't know how anyone looks at those two teams and how good their hyper aggressive penalty kills are, and you say, hey, let's play a passive diamond or large box or 1-2-2, whatever it may be. The Leafs penalty kill has to get more aggressive. And if we want to look at when they looked their best, the last penalty kill where Nyes got a breakaway and Lawton was just skating around, it's because they were aggressive. Nyes, he sees Jones lose a step, gone. Just takes it, go. Scott Lawton gets in the neutral zone. Hey, I'm going to dance around the offensive zone and I'm going to kill time. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to skate. And then there was a play of the boards where the Panthers were caught changing and it didn't really work. Go. Just go. Be aggressive. So the penalty kill is capable of being really, really, really good. I just have not seen it enough this year, and I'm hoping that that gets better, but I'm much more concerned about the power play. You guys can let me know what the power play, what your thoughts on the power play are as well. What you would change for the power play would be another great question for you guys, because I know the Leafs they tried in Game 3 to get, instead of their 1-3-1, they'd push Nylander and Matthews a little bit lower so that the Panthers couldn't just bring their defenders up high to attack Marner, and that created more space for Marner, which led to the Tavares goal, and then that just didn't happen this game. So I don't know. What are your guys' suggestions on what you would change for the power play? I'd love to hear that as well. With that being said, we are going to turn this over to the third segment. Again, as I do, a reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Make sure you go follow the Game Over Network on all social media channels as well. And if you're so inclined, we also have merch available at thegameovernetwork.com. You can go to the store. We have merch available for every Canadian market, whether it's Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, does not matter. We have merch for all of them. Hats, shirts, hoodies, mugs, you name it, we got it. Go check it out, thegameovernetwork.com. Now, let me catch up on chat here. Let's catch up, boys. Let's catch up. They need more hitting drills. Forecheck, backcheck, championship. Man, I wish. They look confused on their position. Absolutely, they did. Although whether Berube will make those players conduct such drills, Berube, for as much as he could in practice, be like, all right, guys, we're going to practice hitting today. Berube can't control the players. This isn't NHL 25 where you can control what each player does. We know that Berube is not telling them to not be physical. He's not telling them to wait at the neutral zone at the other team's blue line for stretch passes. He's not telling them to circle around the outside and not do anything. That is actually very contrary to what Berube wants this team to do. So we know for a fact that it's the players and not the coach. So I just wanted to dispel that real quick. What else we got? They looked a step slow on most plays, and it meant passes weren't connecting. Absolutely. And it looked like they were overestimating how, like, they weren't properly accounting for the fact that they didn't have the legs tonight. Like, there were a lot of passes that missed long for guys. That was super frustrating as well. It may very well be that the modern NHL game has passed Tavares by. Unless the Leafs make the conference final, letting him and Marner walk will be hugely important. Okay. First of all, the game has not passed Tavares by. If that's your takeaway from watching him this season, I don't know what to tell you. He's been fine. He's not ever been a fast player, and no, he's not fast. That being said, if the Leafs lose this series, you definitely can't guarantee anyone comes back. But that is a conversation for after the series. There is still 2 to 3 games remaining. We'll have those conversations after the season postmortem if we have to. You could feel that goal coming. I'm assuming you mean the Bennett goal because that was brutal, man. You definitely did feel that goal coming, though. I agree. Fingers crossed they're all sick in 2 days. The Leafs will look like game 1 or 2. Maybe or maybe it's as simple as just being on home ice and controlling the matchups more. I will say I do want to credit Florida. Paul Maurice after games 1-3, he recognized Sasha Barkov is losing his matchup to Austin Matthews. So what did he do? He switched Barkov to play against Tavares, and he put the Lundell line against Matthews. Now, obviously tonight, Matthews just didn't have the sauce, and that line didn't have the sauce. In general, Lundell doesn't have to win that matchup. He just has to do what Barkov did, which is slightly lose it. Like, if Matthews is only slightly winning that matchup, it frees up Barkov to just destroy the Tavares line and neuter Nylander's effectiveness offensively completely, which would tilt the game completely in the Panthers' favor. Now, back on home ice, I guarantee you the Leafs are going to go back to Matthews versus Barkov, Tavares versus Bennett, Lawton versus Lundell, and then Domi versus the fourth line as much as possible. That being said, in Florida, that's a problem. You need Matthews to step up offensively. You need Tavares to step up offensively as well, because if he's going against Barkov, you got to have something going. And by that, I mean Nylander has to have something going as well. The power play sucks because they don't move. Take Matthews off the first unit. Put a different shooter instead of... I mean, who? Like, who else? Like, even Matthews with 10 miles off of his shot, there's not another player that you put on... Like, maybe you put Tavares in the shooting spot or Nyes in the shooting spot, and you just put Matthews at the net front. But there's not much you can do. The 5-forward unit has proven it can be good. It just has to adapt to the aggressive penalty kill, which that's my bigger concern, is it doesn't matter who you put out there. None of them are equipped to deal with an aggressive penalty kill, so they have to... At some point, they're just going to have to learn that you have to move the puck quicker, and they have to move their legs, and they cannot just circle around the outside doing nothing. But I digress. And also, death to the drop-back pass. Every time I see it, I want to shoot someone. For legal purposes, that is not a threat of violence. My biggest concern is that the Panthers have seemed to found an answer for everything the Leafs were doing well, and now we're all tired. And now they're all tired and sore. It's going to take real grit to come back. Well, Luke, I'm glad you brought that up, because what is the Leafs' motto this year? No grit, no grind, no... I actually don't remember the end of it. But anyways, the Leafs are super focused on grit this year. None of these players have proven they have it, but they want to. They say they want it, so this is the time. This is the time to dig in and prove that you're a gritty team. Which, for you NFL fans out there, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. That's a gritty team. I know what a gritty team looks like in a different sport, granted, but I know what a gritty team looks like, and the Leafs are not it. We should have rested Patches after game 2. Okay, I'm not going to blame Patches, because I understand what you're saying, Matthew, and I understand that even I came on here and said that Patches is the king at being mid for most of the game and then having 2 or 3 game-breaking moments. He was so good between games 6, 1, and 2, going into game 3, that you can't take him out. They're not going to take him out now. I can name 3 guys off the top of my head, McMahon, Domi, Holmberg, that all deserve to be scratched instead of Pacioretty, so not going to go there. I understand what you're saying, though. Patches, the 2 days off for Patches will be great. Brand new series, boys. Let's go Panthers. The Polo, I mean, I appreciate you watching, but you seem to have stumbled into the wrong stream here. But appreciate you being here. You know what? I can't even complain, because I did the same thing when the Leafs were playing the Sens. As I was, after every Leafs win in that series, I was watching Locked On Sens just to see what they were saying about it, just because it's fun to hate watch every once in a while. So you know what? I respect it. I gotta respect it. David W. Execution on passes was sufficiently off, but that's no surprise given the Leafs struggle to score. Yep. They can't seem to exploit Tkachuk being slow due to his injury. Oh, okay. Oh, dude, the Matthew Tkachuk cannot skate. He cannot skate, and he is still making plays. He had the pass to Verhaeghe on the power play, which granted it's a power play. You have time and space all the time, but on the power play, he sits behind the net and no one pressures him. They just allow him to make these passes from behind the net, and passes from below the goal line that lead to a shot attempt above the goal line have a significantly higher shooting percentage, because it's harder for the goalie to adjust to a pass from below the goal line and then having to come out of his crease to attack the potential shooter. So the fact that the Leafs are just letting Tkachuk do that, and Tkachuk is a good playmaker, especially when you give him time and space, that drives me crazy. There was the play last game where he just won a battle on the boards. But every single time that Tkachuk is entering the zone or skating in transition, he doesn't have the legs. Like, he can't skate. So the Leafs have to be doing a better job. I'm pretty sure it's his groin that's bothering him. That's why he's been so slow and so just immobile. But to his credit, he's doing the best he can, and that's enough. Now, granted, I would love if the Leafs could line him up a little bit more, the way he tries to line them up, but yeah, I mean, they certainly cannot exploit that OKO. I fully agree with you. Moose P, very good analysis. Thank you, Moose. Thank you for tuning in. I don't think I've seen you here before, so make sure you like and subscribe. Would love to see more of you guys. I love seeing new people in the chat. Like the Polo and Moose, welcome, guys. OKO Digital, like you're relatively new to at least chatting. Like I think that started around when the playoffs started, so like love to see that. Matthew, for example, he joined mid-season after he rediscovered us. Like I love seeing you guys discover us, but not just discover us, feel inclined to engage in the chat and engage in the conversation. It's a ton of fun. What else we got? Berube should remind Nylander, if I am not going to question you, you should at least get a point a game. That was a funny quote when Berube was like, Nylander just likes to be left alone, so I leave him alone. And that Nylander loves this stage. Granted, Nylander, bad game. Had a bad game in game 5 last series, and then he answered with a good game 6. Do it again. All right. So lastly here, before we turn over to the final segment, just a reminder, get your questions in, because when I do flip over to the overtime segment, that is the dedicated question segment. I know that this show has kind of just been me talking with you guys the entire time, and it's been interactive in that way. But if you have specific questions going into game 5, the rest of the series, all of that, drop them in the chat now. And when we get to the 4th segment, I'll be able to answer those as well. All right. Forgive me. I've been yapping for 40 minutes. I got to have some water. All right. Now, before I do flip over to the final segment here, I do just want to say the Florida Panthers have fully adjusted to the Leafs, as you guys have mentioned in the chat, as we've talked about this show. But the Florida Panthers, this was the fear after last game, is, okay, game 3, the Leafs, a lot of things go against them in that game. It takes a lot of things going right for the Panthers, a couple of good bounces for them, and it goes to overtime, and they win in overtime. And we sat here, and we said, hey, if that many things are going to go against the Leafs, as long as they keep playing well, the results will come. But the Panthers, they elevated their game, and that was peak Florida Panthers hockey. All right? That was peak Florida Panthers hockey. They got in on the forecheck. They were hitting everything that moved. They were skating well. They were getting to the net. Even though they didn't score a ton of goals, they scored 2 goals in this game. They were getting to the net and forcing Joseph Woll to make good saves. The Leafs defense has struggled with the Panthers' speed, not just on the forecheck, just in terms of their overall defensive structure. And we talked about the problems with the offense. So now, series is 2-2. This is not the time to panic. All right? It's not the time to panic. Because it's 2-2. The Leafs are 2 games away from the conference finals. The Panthers are 2 games away from the conference finals. In my series preview that I mentioned earlier, I said that if the Leafs are going to win this series, you got to take care of business at home ice and win at least one. They won both. Preferably split against Florida in Florida. They don't do that. But the goal was have a 2-2 series, and then it's a best 2 out of 3, and just grind out 2 out of 3, and off you go. Now, obviously, remains to be seen if they can do that. But this is what we expected. Everyone that predicted a Leafs win in this series said it was going to be a long series. I said my realistic prediction was Panthers in 6. My Leafs brain pick was Leafs in 7. We are guaranteed a 6-game series. It's going to be a long series. We know that, but it is not time to panic. The Leafs have 2 days off to adjust and find their game again. and we'll see if they got it. I want to remind you guys, excuse me, of a time. 2022. The Leafs lost this series, but it is worth noting that they did play very good in that series, and they just lost to a better team. In Game 3, the Leafs take a 3-0 lead, and then for the back 40 minutes of that game, back 35 minutes of that game, Tampa kicks their ass. But they hold on for the win. And then in Game 4, they get run over. They just didn't have the juice. They go back into Game 5, and for the first 25 minutes of that game, they did not have the juice. They come back to win, take a 3-2 series lead, take Game 6 to overtime, and almost move on that year. They end up moving on the next year. That script is kind of playing out to an extent where the Panthers have proven that they can outplay the Leafs and run them into the ground. The Leafs have to find something within themselves now to get an edge. Because it's like boxing, right? Leafs landed the first couple big blows. The Panthers adjusted, and now they've landed a couple punches back. And as we know, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. In these two games, the Panthers have absolutely punched the Leafs in the mouth. And now we're going to find out what they're made of. This is why Craig Berube's here. This is why we've been saying this team is different, is because we have reason to believe that this team has a different fiber, a different fabric, a different DNA, a different structure, that they will come out with the pressure back on them in front of their home crowd and find another gear and perform. But we have to wait till Wednesday to find out. With that being said, I will now turn us over to our final segment because I see your questions pouring in the chat. So as I get to your questions, just a reminder to hit like and subscribe. One final reminder for you. Again, we're chasing down 200 subscribers. So if you could take 5 seconds to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, takes 5 seconds to do those 3 things, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, thank you all, by the way, for getting your questions in. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Just going to take another quick water break. All right, let's wrap up this show, shall we? Luke Venables asking, is Robertson in back next game? I don't know. Here's the thing. I would not be mad if Robertson came in for McMahon. I think Robertson could come in for McMahon. McMahon has been probably the most disappointing player on this roster because we thought, hey, 20 goal scorer, super fast, pretty big and physical, should be a surefire good playoff performer. He's been horrible. Downright unusable at times. He had a penalty in this game, obviously. He just doesn't have it. I don't know if it's because he's not playing with Nylander. Very possible. But I could see Robertson coming in for McMahon. Do you think the core 5 now have let Woll down? Yes, but we should also... if we're saying Nyes is part of the core 5, like if that's what we're describing as the core 5, Nyes has not let anyone down. If it's Riley, yes. Because if we flash back to 2023 against Florida, Woll comes in Game 3 after Sammy gets hurt, and the team gives up a breakaway on the power play, a shot from the point gets through, whatever, and then the Sam Reinhart overtime winner in Game 3, disgraceful defense. You hang your rookie goalie out to dry. Last year they didn't let him down. They actually played pretty good defense in front of him, and he got 2 wins as a result, and then he got hurt for Game 7, so whatever. And then this year, they didn't let him down in Game 1. That just was anxiety riddled. Game 2, I don't think they let him down. Well, they won, so they couldn't have let him down. Game 3, I would say Woll had one really bad goal against, but the team defense wasn't great either. And a couple bounces, I wouldn't say they let him down. But tonight, absolutely they let him down tonight. I would say 2023 they let him down. Tonight they let him down. Now it's on the team to answer because he delivered a good game and they didn't follow suit. So now they have to deliver a full 60 in a good game to make up for that. Did the bottom 6 lose their presence? So, okay, this is tough because I don't think I can say that the bottom six as a whole had presence in the playoffs. The Lawton line, the third line, the checking line, they've had presence, and I think they still do. They have their uses as a defensive unit that routinely turns defensive zone faceoffs into offensive zone faceoffs for the top six to get scoring opportunities. The Domi line is downright useless on the road. It is barely even, I don't even think I could use the word useful to describe them on home ice. They don't have an identity. Their identity right now is a bunch of guys that just are there and take penalties sometimes. Holmberg is like the least offensively skilled player I've ever seen in my life. There was a play in the second period where I think it was Domi tries to feed Holmberg in the slot. And it's a play where it's going to hit Holmberg's skate, so he has to kick it up to his stick. Most NHL players can kick that puck up to their stick and get an uncontested shot from the slot. Pontus Holmberg kicks it the wrong way, and it goes back the other way for a chance against. Useless. Bobby McMahon, 20 goals in the regular season, over 20 goals in the regular season, 0 in the playoffs. Useless. Max Domi on the road is the most useless player ever. He takes stupid penalties. He has been mostly useless in these playoffs outside of like 3 really good moments. For 95% of it, he's been bad. So, did the bottom 6 lose their presence? No. Because the bottom 6 as a collective never had it. It's the Lawton line entirely, and I think that line still has it, but Domi does not at all, and he and that line needs to figure something out. How likely do you think it is that, this is from OKO Digital, and by the way, that was Matthew, the previous 2 questions. OKO Digital, how likely do you think it is that Berube does change the lineup? He has seemed reluctant to switch it up in this series. Now, first to talk on the reluctance is because it was a winning lineup in games 1 and 2, as well as game 6 against Ottawa. And game 3 went to overtime, so you can understand why he would be hesitant to change it up. After tonight, if he's going to make changes, this would be the time. Because you've lost 2 in a row, you played horrible in this game. This would be the time to make changes if he's going to. I don't know if he will. He might, though. David W., it's not yet time to panic. That said, lose game 5 and the Leafs will have 2 must-win games ahead. Well, yeah, there'll be elimination games. So, I would really, really hate to go back into Florida where you just dropped 2 straight and you're down 3-2 in an elimination game. That would be really bad. Does both of these questions result from Maurice again out-coaching Toronto? I will say, I thought Berube out-coached Maurice in Toronto, and he was out-coaching him for the first 2 periods of game 3. But Maurice has done a great job flipping the matchups to his advantage and finding a matchup game that works for his team, and he's inspired them to elevate their play. So now it's on the Leafs to elevate their play in return and find another gear. Okay, Digital. I'd like to believe Berube will for Game 5. This is from David W. I'm assuming he's referring to making lineup changes, make changes to the various lines with the shutout loss. Yeah. Luke Venables, do you think Florida is benefiting from all those little dirty hits like Kulikov's elbow on Marner? I will say, no one's been talking about this. The sneaky, dirty play of the game was actually from someone that wasn't on the ice. It was from Mikula on the bench, opening the door so that Nylander's hip fell into like the corner that stuck out. That was my sneaky, dirty play of the game from the Panthers. But I mean, to an extent, they're benefiting from all those little, like, sneaky plays, but at the same time, the playoffs aren't easy. They're physically demanding, and the Leafs knew that this was coming, so you got to find a way to push through, and also just do it back. Kachuk fans don't hit the like button. Exactly. Listen to Luke. Only Kachuk fans don't hit the like button. 13 people and less than 10 likes. Guys, what are we doing? Hit that like button. Come on, there's 14 of you here. I've seen how many of you are active in the chat. Drop a like on the video. Come on, boys. What are the chances the Leafs can win all of their home games if this series does end up going 7? I mean, they're higher than 0%. Look at what the Winnipeg Jets did against St. Louis. Winnipeg got killed. every single road game of these playoffs so far. They got killed by St. Louis in all 3 games in St. Louis. They got killed by Dallas in Dallas today. And yet they're down 2-1 in that series, but they made it to the second round and they are only down 1 game. It is very possible to just be a home team. That being said, Toronto also did have a terrible performance against Ottawa in Game 5, so it's not like they're unbeatable on home ice either. Or does Toronto end up winning a game in Florida? I'm not going to lie, sitting here right now, I think this series is going to go 7. I don't know which order the wins are going to happen in 5 and 6, but I think this series is going to go 7, if I had to guess right now. I still called in 6, but 2 more straight is looking harder. I mean, Matthew, look, both teams have won 2 straight in this series. Who's to say the Leafs can't do it again? Jay Edwards, welcome in. Game 5, Leafs are winning Wednesday. 2 out of 3 left, guys. 2 are in Toronto. Cats yet to win 3. Let's see. Absolutely. You know what? Jay, I respect your passion. Let's get a go Leafs go. Let's get a go Leafs go chant going for Jay's passion right here. Let's all rally behind that. Jay, welcome in to Game Over Toronto. Pleasure to see you here. I'm pretty confident the Leafs can win the next one. Let's do it. Would you Would you replace Wool with Stolarz if he is 100% or less than? Okay. Straight up, after Game 3, if you ask me that, yes. After tonight, no. I don't think it's going to be an option anyways. For me, I am fully saying Stolarz is done for the series, and he can play in the conference finals if the Leafs get there, but it's a concussion, right? We have no idea when he's even going to be back. Joseph Woll just played a fantastic Game 4, and the team let him down. I have full confidence in Joseph Woll. I have full confidence in both goaltenders, so no concerns on that front. And then we'll figure it out going into the conference final. If we get there, who starts then? But we got to get over the next 2 hurdles first, which is getting 2 more wins. So I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I see the Go Leafs goes in the chat. Thank you all for being such a pleasure to deal with on a nightly basis. Again, reminder, hit like, hit subscribe. We're chasing down 200 subscribers. We're almost there, so if you could hit that subscribe button, it'll take you 2 seconds, and it would mean a lot to us. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for joining me after that dreadful, dreadful game in Florida. We will see you back on Wednesday for the post-game show following Game 5. I believe that is going to be me and Dominic on that show. In the meantime, go Leafs go. Thank you, everybody, and hopefully the boys in blue give us a better effort in Game 5. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Cheers.